Bonjour tout le monde. Hello everyone. Je m'appelle Arthur. My name is Arthur. And today we're going to be looking at pronunciation. That's going to be the first part of this series about pronunciation. And today we're going to look more specifically into the alphabet. Okay, so this video will be dedicated to the alphabet, and you will know your ABC in French by the end of this short lesson. So without further ado, let's get into l'alphabet. Okay, so starting with l'alphabet, right? So l'alphabet, the alphabet, right? L'alphabet en français. So if we want to say the alphabet, okay, it goes this way. We start with A, okay? So A would be A, okay? There we go. A. So A for A. Moving on to the next one, we have B. B. Okay, so B for B. We would also say C. Okay, C. C for C. And then we have D. D for D. Okay, D. And lastly, we've got E. Okay, E. So it goes again A, B, C, D, E. Okay, for the first 5 words. Moving on now to F. Okay, F. No big change compared to English, right? F, same letter. Moving on then to G. G. Okay, G as in G. All right, G. Next, we've got H. H. All right, so H for H. Okay, the way you pronounce it is the same as the ash in English. All right, same thing. Next, we've got I. I. Okay, so I in French we pronounce I. Okay, make sure you don't get it mixed up with here, right? So this one was right? This one here, I is I. Moving on now to J. J. So J would be J, okay? J. So again, we've got F, G, H, I, J. All right, let's move on to the next row, starting with K. K. Okay, imagine a K plus an A, so that would be K. Then we've got L. L, no different from English. M. M, again, same, not really different from English. And then N, right? N, again, same as English, right? So that's a rather easy row here. So we have K, L, M, N. All right, simple, doesn't change, except for K. Now, for the next row, we've got O, 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 right, for O. P, 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 and then Q, 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 and then R, R, R for R, right? O, P, Q, R. Now for the next row, we've got S, 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 followed by T, 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 and then U, 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 and finally V, V. And then for the last row, we've got W, W, W. All right, W. So remember the previous one was V, right? And here we say W. So basically double V. Now we have X, X, X for X. The next one is a little difficult. Bear with me. Y, Y. All right, Y. And then finally, Z, Z, which you also find in British English, right? Z. So there we have all of our letters. So you have all the letters here and then the pronunciation on the right. So for all the letters that end with E in English, right? Like B, C, D, B, so that goes B, C, D, and then we had G also, G becomes G, right? P becomes P, T becomes T, V becomes V, W, that's a different one, W, right? W, and then J becomes J. So those letters are a bit of a change. Now, if you also have some letters that are the same, right? Like L, M, N, right? They're very, very similar, right? Z also, if you speak British English, that one would be familiar enough. And then we have a few ones that are pretty different, right? Like A for A, for E. We also have J, which becomes G, I, which becomes E, K, which becomes K, which is basically K. Q became Q in French. R became R. So yeah, some of them are pretty similar and some are different. So I encourage you to play this video again, try to say the alphabet again. Now let's try to repeat all the letters at once, okay? So we got A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, Z. I also suggest you, for additional revision, try to find those baby songs that sing the alphabet in French, and that shall be pretty easy for you then to just remember the alphabet. So that's for all the letters. Now there are a few specific characters that you would see in French. So we're gonna review them very quickly. First, we have E, right? So when you have the E, the E, with the accent that kind of goes up, right? That's the E. Maybe you've seen that one in the word café, for instance, right? Café. So that's an accent aigu. We call that E for E, accent aigu. Accent is what's on top of the E, and then it's aigu, right? Because it's E. Okay, so the first one was E. Moving on to this one here, where So again, it's a with an accent, right? An accent grave this time. We call it grave. Grave is the accent that goes down like this. And so that one sounds like eh, okay? Eh. So make sure not to mix up the two, right? The first one was eh, eh, and the second one is eh, eh. If you pay attention to my mouth movement, right? Eh, eh. When you say eh, your mouth is supposed to open up a little more, all right? Eh, you kind of wince a bit more, right? Uh your mouth opens up horizontally, like barely eh, but then eh, your mouth opens up a little more. So yeah, try not to mix up both. Moving on then to l'accent circonflexe. So l'accent circonflexe, that's that one here. That's the one that looks like a little hat, right? So you can find that accent on the on the a, on the o, right? It doesn't really change the sound of the letter, except for e sometimes, right? Like if it's on top of an e, it's gonna sound eh, just like the previous accent we saw, right? So that's l'accent circonflexe. You also have this one here, le tréma, okay, le tréma, which we would find on ease a lot, and in that case, that would again make a eh sound. And sometimes you can find it on words that are of foreign origin, like German words, for instance, but it wouldn't necessarily change the sound of the letter, unlike in German, for instance. So yeah, don't pay attention to that one too much. Just be aware that it exists. And finally, quite important one, that would be the cédille, okay, which you probably have seen in ça va, for instance, right? In the C, under the C in ça va, right? And in that case, so that basically transforms the C in order to have a S sound and not a K sound. Sometimes with the C, you have a K sound. Sometimes you have a S sound. So that's something we're going to look into in a future video in this series in pronunciation. But yeah, that's the gist of it, right? That's the S sound. Okay, everybody, that's going to be it for today. We've seen the alphabet and we've seen a few characters that you wouldn't find in English, for instance. So that's going to be it for today, everyone. I'll see you in the next video. Au revoir. All right, everyone. So again, let's repeat the alphabet together. Starting with A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, Z. And for the characters here, E, S, C, D. And that's it for today. Bonjour tout le monde. Hello everyone. Je m'appelle Arthur. My name is Arthur, and welcome to this series about the French numbers. So in this series, we will look at the numbers from 0 to 10,000, and we will also look at the time. Today, though, we're going to look at the very basics, namely the numbers from 1 to 20. All right, so let's jump into the numbers from 1 to 20 today. All right, starting with the numbers from 1 to 10 first. So I will encourage you to repeat after me if you can. If you cannot, you have in phonetic language, underneath the numbers, you have the pronunciation so that you can train later at home or whatever. So starting from un, okay? So un, that will be one, okay? Un. Moving on to deux, deux, okay? So deux for two. Then we've got trois, trois, trois for three. Then we've got quatre, quatre, okay? So quatre is for four. Make sure when you pronounce quatre to not pronounce it quatre, okay? It's not a qu sound, it's k. So not quatre, but quatre. Next is cinq, cinq. So cinq for five. Let's repeat from 1 to 5 first, and then we'll move on to the next ones. Un, deux, trois, quatre, cinq. Okay? Un, deux, trois, quatre, cinq. All right, excellent. Moving on now to the numbers from 6 to 10. So we've got six, 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 okay, for 6. Next, we've got sept, 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 right? So sept for 7. Moving on then to huit, 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 okay? So huit for 8, huit. Next up is neuf, neuf, neuf for 9. And finally, we've got dix, dix, dix. All right, so dix for 10. Let's recap the numbers that we just saw. We've got six, sept, huit, neuf, dix. Okay, so now all the numbers from 1 to 10, repeat after me. Un, deux, trois, quatre, cinq, six, sept, huit, neuf, dix. Okay, faster. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, so as you can see also on the numbers, we have some letters in red. The letters in red you pronounce, okay? So the Q at the end of cinq, okay? The cinq. Make sure you pronounce the K sound. For six, six, you would pronounce the S at the end, right? Six. Then we have sept, sept, ending with T, right? The P, which is in blue, you don't pronounce, okay? But the T, you pronounce. And then we have the huit, right? In the huit, you don't pronounce the H, right? It's in blue. You don't pronounce the H, but you say the T in the end. And then for neuf, dix, make sure you pronounce the last consonant. All right, now, moving on to the numbers from 11 to 20, right? 11 to 20. So starting with 11. 11. Okay, so 11 for 11. All right, 11. Then we've got 12. 12 for 12. Okay, 12. Next up is 13. 13. Okay, so 13 for 13. Then we've got 14. 14. All right, so 14 for 14. Again, make sure you don't pronounce the QU like a qu, right? It's 14, okay? Not quatorze. 14. Same thing with the next one. We've got 15. 15, okay? 15. Don't pronounce it quinze, but 15, okay? 15. All right, next we've got 16. 16. 16. Okay? 16. Now, remember, 10 is 10, right? And 7 is set. So the way we say 17 is basically 10, 7. 17. 17. Okay? 17. Again, you pronounce the T, but not the P. Next, we've got 18. 18. 18. Same as before, all right? You would say 10, 8, right? Don't pronounce the H and pronounce the T in 8. Next up is 19. 19. 19 for 19, okay? 19. And finally, we've got 20. 20. 20. So 20 for 20. In 20, we don't pronounce the G and the T in the end, okay? We just say 20. It's like, remember number 1, but you have a V sound at the beginning, right? 20, okay? Right, everyone, so that's all the numbers for today, from 1 to 20. Remember that if you want to read those aloud, I suggest that you you pay attention to the blue and the red, right? The blue are the letters you don't pronounce, you don't say them, and then the red ones you pronounce, okay? Let's just repeat one more time the numbers from 11 to 20, okay? Let's go. 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Okay? A little faster now. 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. All right. Okay, everyone, that's going to be it for today. In the next video, we will see some bigger numbers, namely the ones that go from 20 to 99. That's it for today, everybody. I will see you in the next video. À la prochaine. Au revoir. Bonjour tout le monde. Hello, everyone. And welcome to this new video regarding the numbers. So last video, we saw the numbers from 1 to 20. And today we're going to be looking at the numbers from 21 to 99. So if you don't really know your numbers and if you haven't seen the previous video regarding the numbers from 1 to 20, I obviously highly encourage you to watch that video first. Otherwise, you may be a little lost today. So let's jump right into the numbers from 21 to 69 first. Okay, so again, here we have the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, right? From 1 to 9, right? On the right, just to make sure. And we have the dozens on the left, right? So for 20, remember 20, we saw it last video. 20 is 20, right? 20. Next, let's get to 30. So 30 will be 30. 30. All right. Then we have 40. 40. Again, remember, like I said last video, make sure you don't pronounce the 40 like 40, right? With the QU. It's just 40, okay? 40. Moving on now to 50. 50. All right, so 50 is 50, okay? 50. And finally, we've got 60. 60, okay, for 60. So again, we've got 20, 30, 40, 50, 60. All right? Now, if we want to say, so getting back to 20, right? Just for the sake of the example, right? If you want to say 21, you're going to say 21, okay? 21, right? So for 21, you have to add the A. Remember, A is and, right? So technically, when you say 21, you say 20 and 1, right? Same for 31, 31, 41, 41, 51, 51, 61, 61. You get the idea, right? Now, if I want to say 22, that's going to be 22. And then it goes 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, right? So we basically just take the number on the left, and then we add the number to the right. 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, right? Same for 30. 45, 46, 47, 48, 49. Same thing with 40. 51, 52, 53, 64, 65, 66, 67, right? So that's how it works, okay? So you just say et for 1, right? And for the rest, 32, 43, 55, 66. Super simple, okay? You just have to know 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, and then make sure that you know the numbers from 1 to 9, and you're good to go. Okay? So that's for the numbers from 21 to 69. Let's now move on to the numbers from 70 to 99. So there it gets a little more complicated, all right? So here you have to know your numbers from 11 to 19. You'll see why. So basically, in French from France, okay, I'll more on that in a minute, but basically, in French from France, we do not have a word for 70. Instead, what we say is 70, which basically stands for 60, 10, 60 plus 10. Try to understand it this way. There are a lot of memes about this. There are lots of misconceptions, and a lot of people think it's very complicated. It's a little confusing, but it's not that complicated, I swear. So yeah, 70 would be 70, right? Now, if you want to say 71, you're going to say 71. 71, right? Remember with 21, 31, 41, we said 21, 31, 41. So similar thing here. We add the et, right? 71, so 60, 11, 71. And then it goes back to normal. 72, 73, 74, 75, 76, 77, 78, 79. Basically, in your head, you have to do you have to add the numbers up, right? If that makes sense, right? So yeah, when you think of 76, think of 70, so sorry, 60 plus 16, all right? Yeah, that's the deal. That's the situation we're dealing with here. Yeah, so 71, 72, 73, 74, 75, 76, 77, 78, 79. All right, that's how it works. So that's for 70, okay? It works the same for 90. So I'm moving straight to 90 because it's the same thing. We would say 90. 90 is 90, okay? 90, 91, 92, 93, 94, 95, 96, 97, 98, 99. All right, same thing. So 90 is 90, okay? Right. Now we have to look at the previous one, which is 80. So 80 works a little different, all right? Again, we don't have a word for 80. In French, we would say 80, which basically means 420, right? Yeah, but not that important, okay? Just remember that 80 is 80. Now, 80 works like the numbers from 21 to 69 worked. So basically, you just have 80 and then you add the other numbers, right? If you want to say 81, 82, 83, this is how it works. So it goes 81, 82, 83, 84, 85, 86, 87, 88, 89. Okay? 80, and then you add up the number. Okay? One more time. 81 for 81, 82, 83, 84, 85, 86, 87, 88, 89. Note also that contrary to the numbers from 21 to 69, so we don't say the et un here, right? Remember, like when we say 21, we don't say 81, okay? 81, that's it. The et is gone here, all right? 81. The et is also gone for 91, by the way, right? We don't say 91, but we say 91. That's it. 91, 92, 93, 94, 95, 96, 97, 98, 99, right? And so the 90, right? Something similar to 70, right? We added the 10. So basically when we say 90, it's 420 plus 10. Okay, 420 plus 11, 420 plus 12, 420 plus 13. Okay, but don't get too confused with all this, all right? Just remember 70, 70, and then you add 71, 72, 73, okay? Try not to say 61, 62, 63, right? Otherwise, we get back to 61, 62, 63, yeah? 81, 82, 83, similar to what we saw previously with the numbers from 20 to 60. And then 90, 91, 92, 93, 94. So you count the same way as you would for 70, except for 91, right? You don't say the et. So that's basically how it works, all right? So that's the numbers from 70 to 99. I hope this was clear enough because this is basically the end of today's lesson, right? Very short one for today, right? So the numbers from 21 to 99, okay? Again, I encourage you to practice more on your own and to repeat whenever possible. So, everybody, that's it for today. I will see you in the next video. Au revoir, à la prochaine. Bonjour tout le monde. Hello everybody. Je m'appelle Arthur. My name is Arthur. And welcome to today's lesson. So, third lesson about the numbers. Today, we're just going to review all the numbers that we've seen up until now. So, namely, the numbers from 0 to 99. Okay, so yeah, we're going to do that before we move on to the bigger numbers in the next lesson. So, starting with 0, all right? We actually haven't touched upon 0 yet because 0 is actually pretty easy, pretty self-explanatory. If you want to say 0, right? 0, you're going to say zero, okay? Zero, right? Because it has the E accent on top, right? So we say zero. Moving on now to un. Un, okay? Un. Next, we've got deux. Deux. Moving on to trois. Trois. Next up is quatre. Quatre. Then we've got cinq. Cinq. Next is six. Six. Then we've got sept. Sept. Next is huit. Huit. And then neuf. Neuf. Now, that's the end for this row. Moving on to the next one, from 10 to 19, okay? So we've got 10. 10 for 10. Next, we've got 11. 11 for 11. Moving on to 12. 12 for 12, right? 12. Next is 13. 13 for 13. Moving on then to 14. 14 for 14, all right? 14. Next, we've got 15. 15, which stands for 15, right? 15. And then we have 16. 16, okay? Next, 17. 17. 18. 19, right? 19. Remember, for 17, 18, 19, 10, 7, 10, 8, 10, 9. Okay? Also remember, for 4, 14, make sure you don't pronounce them like quoi. Okay? Like quatre or quatorze or whatever. It's 4, 14. Okay, if I want to say the numbers from 20 to 29 now. So it goes 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29. Moving on to from 30 to 39 now. 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39. Okay, now on to 40 to 49. 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48, 49. Right? So that's for 40, right? Make sure that you don't mix up 40 and 14. It's a common mistake, right? 14 for 14 and 40 for 40. Next, from 50 to 59, 50, 51, 52, 53, 54, 55, 56, 57, 58, 59. All right. Now on to 60 to 69, 60, 61, 62, 63, 64, 65, 66, 67, 68, 69. All right. Now 70 to 79. So it's a little more complicated, right? Slightly. So yeah, so bear with me for this one. So 70, 71, 72, 73, 74, 75, 76, 77, 78, 79. So that was for 70. Moving on to 18, right? 80, 81, 82, 83, 84, 85, 86, 87, 88, 89. Right? 80 to 89. And now 90 to 99. It goes 90, 91, 92, 93, 94, 94, 95, 96, 97, 98, 99. And there we have them all, right? The numbers from 0 to 99. So yeah, again, remember when you say 21, 31, 41, 51, 61, remember the E and un, right? So for the 1, we always have the E in there, right? We also have the E in 71, and that's it. For 81, 91, the E is gone, right? For 70 and 90, right? Remember, it's basically 70, 60 plus 10, 90 is 80 plus 10. All right, so that's basically how it works. Okay, so I hope this was useful. I hope you have no more doubts, no more difficulties with the pronunciation of these numbers. All right, so that's basically it for all the numbers to review. So if you can now try to pronounce the following numbers, okay? So the following numbers from, yes, so we have 50, 92, 48, 87, 64, 79. Try to pronounce them in French oral, okay? So you think you can do it? All right. So you can pause the video and try to pronounce them yourselves. Go ahead. Okay, so let's see how we pronounce those numbers, right? So the first one, how do we say it? It's 15. Yes, 15, right? 15. Now for 92, how do we say 92 again? 92 is 92. That's right. 92, right? Not 82, right? A lot of people make that mistake to pronounce it 82, but 82 would be 82, right? So that's 92, 92. Moving on to 48. 48 is 48. Yeah, 48. That's 48. Now, moving on to 87. How do we say that? 87. 87. That's right. 87. All right. Yeah, and not 97, right? 97 would be 97. Here we have 87, so 87. Next, we have 64. What about 64? 64 is 64. Yeah, indeed, 64, 64. And then lastly, we've got 79, so that's 79, indeed. 79. 79 for 79. All right. And here you have the correction, the numbers written in letters. So 15, 92, 48, 87, 64, and 79. And that's it for today, everyone. Next time, we will be looking at the numbers 100 and plus, okay? 100 to 10,000, basically, all right? Okay, everybody, so that's basically it for today. I will see you next lesson for the big numbers. Au revoir et à la prochaine. Bye bye. Bonjour tout le monde. Hello everyone. Je m'appelle Arthur. My name is Arthur. And today we are continuing with our series on the numbers. So we are done with the numbers from 1 to 99. So today we're going to look at the numbers 100 and plus on top of the liaison courante, which I will explain a little bit later. But first, let's get started with the numbers from 100 to 10,000. So first off, for 100, we would say 100, okay? 100. So 100 is 100. So if you want to say 200, 300, 400, 500, and so on, you would say 100 for 100, and then 200, 300, 400, 500, 600, 700, 800, 900, and so on, right? So that's how it works. Just like in English, we kind of read the numbers aloud from left to right. So if I would like to say 601, for instance, right? 601. So that would be 601, right? 601. That's how it works, right? 601. So that's for the hundreds, okay? I hope it's clear enough. 100 for 100, and then 200, 300, 400, 500. Make sure you don't say 100, okay, for 100. 100 is just 100. That's it. Okay. So next for the thousands, okay? So it's pretty similar in the structure, but first the word to say thousand is mille, okay? Mille. And 1,000 is also mille, all right? Just like 100 was 100, right? Mille is 1,000. So you would say 1000, 2000, 3000, 4000, 5000, 6000, 7000, 8000, 9000, right? You just say the number, the figure, and then mille. Okay, again, I can read from left to right, okay? If I wanted to say like a date, all right, a year, I could read this way, right? So first I start with 1000, and then 900, okay? 900, right? 900. And then 95, 95, right? So 1995, my birth year, by the way, that would be 1995, all right? 1995. 15. Okay, so yeah, try by yourself maybe to say out loud your own birth year. Okay, whether you were born in this century or the previous one. All right, 1995. So that's for 1,000, right? 1,000 and then all the thousands, so that's mille. All right. If you know in English, we have century, right? That comes from cent, right? Because in a century you have 100 years, and millennia, right? The millennia you have 1,000 years, so that's from mille. Okay. All right. So that's for cent and mille. Now we can also say 10 000, 11 000, 12 000, 100 000, and so on, right? That also works, right? So for instance, if we want to say 125,000, that would be 125 000, right? 125 000. Again, we read from left to right. Okay, so that was for 100 and plus. Moving on now to what we call les liaisons courantes. So, you probably have seen, if you have seen the chapter about the présentation, you've probably seen la liaison. La liaison, that means linking, okay? So here we're talking linking the number with the noun that comes next. The noun that comes next can be euro, heure, or. So by linking, we mean that we would hear the last letter. Let me demonstrate. If I want to say €1, all right, I'm gonna say un euro. Un euro, right? Un euro is €1. So if you notice, listen, un euro, right? Un euro. I would hear, right? I would stress the N, right? And it's like it's linking basically the number with euro, right? With nouns that start with a vowel, right? So that's why we talk about a liaison, linking. Un euro, right? We don't say un euro, we say un euro, okay? Un euro. Now, so that's how it would be like for the number one, or any number that ends with un, right? If you say 21 euros, 21 euros, you would also have that liaison going on. Now, for a lot of numbers, you would have a z sound, right? So, for instance, for the 2, the 3, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, everything red here, you would have a z sound, right? So, if you want to say 2 hours, right, you're going to say 2 heures, right? You can hear the z sound here, right? If I want to say 12 years old, right, I would say 12 ans, right? 12 ans. And if I want to say 14 hours, 14 heures, okay? 14 heures, okay? So the z sound here. Pay attention though, heure, right, is a feminine noun, so we don't say un heure when we count, right, 1 hour. We would say une heure. Yeah, so something to pay attention to, right? Don't say un heure, it's une heure. Now you also have a t sound at the end of the number when your number ends with a t, right? So that's the case with sept, with huit, with cent, right? You would say 7 euros, 8 heures, 100 ans, right? Now we have a special one with neuf, right? Neuf typically it ends with a F, right? And you would say 9 euros, right? 9 euros. You would do the liaison here with the F. But for other words, such as and en, the F would turn into a V, basically, like orally speaking, I mean. So you would not say 9 heures or 9 ans, but you would say 9 heures, 9 ans, right? A V, 9 heures, 9 ans. So we have a V sound here. Right, and that's all the liaison courante, right? We have a Z sound, the T sound, the V sound, and also the N sound for un. So that's basically it for les liaisons courantes. Let's now train with this exercise here. I would like you to try to pronounce the following words, okay? The following numbers, and then unit slash noun. So you can pause this video and try this on your own. Let's go. Okay, let's try to correct that. So now we've got 19 vents. Yes, 19 vents. The next one is 7 euros. Yes, 7 euros, right? So the liaison with the T. Then we had 2 heures. 2 heures, right? So with the Z sound, if you have the X, the X would turn into Z sound. And then finally, we had the 12 heures. 12 heures, right? 12 heures for 12 o'clock. Right, everybody, that's basically it for today. I hope this was fun and insightful. And so I will see you on the next lesson, everyone. Okay? All right. À la prochaine et au revoir. Bye bye. Bonjour tout le monde. Hello, everyone. Je m'appelle Arthur. My name is Arthur. And today we're going to look at the time. So we're going to look at how to say what time is it, how to say what the time is, and then also look at the intricacies, where to place the hour, the minutes, how to say quarter past, half past, and so on. Okay, so that's the last video on this series for number and time. So let's get into it. If we want to say what time is it, we're going to say il est quelle heure? Il est quelle heure? Okay, so il est quelle heure? What time is it? Now, if you want to answer to that question, you're going to start with il est, okay? Il est, meaning it is, the same one that we have in the question. And then you would add the hour, right? So for instance, if it's 1 o'clock, you're going to say il est 1 heure. If it was 2 o'clock, you would say il est 2 heures. If it's 3 o'clock, you're going to say il est 3 heures. And il est 4 heures, il est 5 heures, il est 10 heures, il est 15 heures, and so on and so forth, okay? Make sure to say heure all the time, right? Heure, that's a mandatory one. It's not like in English where you can say it's one. You have to say il est 1 heure, okay? After heure, if needed, we can add the minutes, okay? So if it's 1:05, you can say il est 1h05. If it's if it's 10 past 1, for instance, you would say il est 1h10. If it's 20 past 1, you can say il est 1h20. And so on and so forth, right? You add the hours first and then the minutes, okay? If it's 1:30, il est 1h30, il est 1h40, il est 1h50. So I hope you know your numbers. Now, if we want to know what time it is, right? We can also use quarter past, half past, 22, quarter to, and so on. So if it's 5 past, right, we say 5. If it's 10 past, we say 10. Now, if it's quarter past, you can say 15, right? You can say the number 15, or you can say écart. So for instance, if it's quarter past 1, you can say il est 1h15, right? 1h15. If it's half past, okay, you can say il est 1h30, okay? 1h30. All right, now we're moving to something slightly more difficult, okay? So bear with me here. You know how in English you can say 20 to, quarter to, and so on. We also have that in French. It's just formulated slightly different. If it's 20 to 2, okay, 20 to 2 o'clock, you would say il est 2h moins 20, okay? Picture 140, right? We can say 1h40 or 2h moins 20, okay? The trick to remember here is that moins means minus, okay? So literally you're subtracting 20 minutes to 2 o'clock, okay? So 140 would be 2h moins 20. 240 would be 3h moins 20. 340 would be 4h moins 20, so on and so forth, okay? So that's the idea here with the moins. So we have it with moins 20, we also have it with moins le quart, right? So moins le quart, here we're talking about quarter to, okay? Minus quarter of an hour. So if it's 1:45, you could say il est 2h moins le quart. If it's 2:45, you would say il est 3h moins le quart. If it's 3:45, you can say il est 4h moins le quart, and so on and so forth. If you pay attention, right, it's the same word, quart, from the one we had in écart, right, quarter. And if it's 10 to, you can say moins 10. So if it's 1:50, you can say il est 2h moins 10. If it's 2:50, it would be il est 3h moins 10. If it's 3:50, you can say il est 4h moins 10. And so on and so forth. Okay, so that's what the moins is for here, right? Remember, we only use it to say to, right? Moins means minus. For quarter past, half past, écart, et demi. Now, moving on to AM and PM, all right? So we don't really say AM, PM in French. We would say in the morning, in the afternoon, in the evening. So let's jump into that. First, if you want to say midnight, you're going to say minuit, okay? Minuit. So minuit is midnight. Note that if you say minuit, you don't follow up with heure, okay? Now, in the morning, that would be du matin. So if it's 1 a.m., 1 in the morning, you can say il est 1h du matin. Il est 3h du matin. Il est 8h du matin. Il est 11h du matin. And so on. So du matin is in the morning. We also have midi for noon. Okay, so midi. Okay, so midi is similar to minuit. You don't need to put heure afterwards. Yeah, so you would just say midi. You can also say 12 heures if you want, right? You have the flexibility too, if you will. But you can also say midi for noon, for midday. Now, if we want to say in the afternoon, we would say de l'après-midi, okay? De l'après-midi. L'après-midi is literally the afternoon, okay? De l'après-midi. So if it's 1 in the afternoon, you can say il est 1 heure de l'après-midi, il est 6 heures de l'après-midi if it's 6 p.m., and so on and so forth, all right? And finally, we have du soir. So du soir, okay? Du soir. Du soir is in the evening, okay? If it's 7 p.m., you can say il est 7 heures du soir. If it's 11 p.m., il est 11 heures du soir, and so on and so forth. So please note that the other way we can say PM, right, in French, right? Instead of saying, for instance, 1 heure de l'après-midi, right? You can also say, il est 13 heures, right? If you want to say, it's 8 p.m., you can say, il est 8 heures du soir, or il est 20 heures, right? So you can do that if you want. It's totally up to you. It's totally flexible. You can read the 24-hour clock, or you can specify with du matin, de l'après-midi, du soir. Okay, it's totally up to you. You would hear general people in France, in other French-speaking countries, using both interchangeably. So you are totally allowed to do whatever you want, whatever you feel most comfortable with. Just be aware that both exist. Okay, so using what we have just learned, you can try to tell me what time it is for each time indication that we have here, okay? So for instance, if you say 2:30, for instance, right, you have to try to say 2:30, right? So on your own, try to say what time it is for each time indication here, and we'll correct that together next, okay? All right, see you in a bit. Okay, so let's try to pronounce those time indications here. So for the first one, we have il est 14h15, right? Il est 14h15. So you can say il est 14h15, or you could say il est 2h15, right? And then you would have to specify de l'après-midi, right? Because it's in the afternoon here. Il est 14h15, or il est 2h15. Now for the next one, we can say il est 8h05 du matin, right? It's in the morning. Il est 8h05 du matin. We can also say il est 12h30, or il est midi et demi, right? You have, again, flexibility here. You can say whatever you feel most comfortable with. Personally, I like to say the numbers that I see, all right? But yeah, whatever you prefer. For the next one, we can either say il est 23h40, or il est minuit moins 20, okay? We could have also said il est 11h40 du soir, by the way, right? For the next one, what can we say? We can say il est 18h, or il est 6h du soir. And finally, we can either say il est 5h55, 5:55, here we're saying all the numbers, or more simply, we can say il est 6h moins 5 du matin. So note also that, yeah, if you say all the numbers, right? That may sound a little more formal. If you say il est 23h40, that would be slightly more formal, perhaps, than il est minuit moins 20. Okay, but that's not really a problem. Both are correct. So that's it for today, everybody. I will see you in another lesson, perhaps, because that's the end of our series about the numbers. I hope this was entertaining and educational. I hope to see you later, okay? All right, everybody. Merci. Au revoir. Thank you and bye-bye. Bonjour tout le monde. Welcome, everybody. And so again, je m'appelle Arthur. My name is Arthur. Today we will be looking at les nombres ordinaux as part of this series on the numbers. So les nombres ordinaux are all the numbers that say first, second, third, fourth, and so on. All right? So you will see, as long as you know your numbers in French, les nombres ordinaux are super, super easy. Okay? So let's get started with les nombres ordinaux. Okay, so starting with first. So the way you say the first, all right? You're going to say, if your noun is masculine, you will say premier, premier, okay? Premier. If it's feminine, you're going to say première, première, okay? Première. So yeah, premier for masculine and première for feminine, all right? Moving on now to the second, all right? The second will be, so you have two choices. You can either say deuxième, deuxième, okay? Deuxième, so you have deux and you add ième. Or you could say second, 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 all right? As in second, right? Second and seconde when it's feminine, right? Seconde. We would pronounce the D when second is feminine, so seconde. Right, we can either say deuxième or second, right? Pretty easy so far, right? So then when you say the following numbers, so the third, the fourth, the fifth, super easy. You say the number and you add ième. So it goes deuxième, troisième, quatrième, cinquième, sixième, septième, huitième, neuvième, dixième. All right. So yeah, you say the number and you add ième. And then same goes for the numbers after 10. Onzième, douzième, treizième, quatorzième, quinzième, seizième, dix-septième, dix-huitième, dix-neuvième, vingtième, and so on and so forth. All right? So that's how you do it. All right? The only unique ones are premier, première, right? And then you have second, seconde, right? But that's pretty similar to English, right? And remember, you can say second or deuxième, right? So they all follow this rule, number plus ième. Let's now look at this little exercise here. You are going to have to find the right nombre ordinal here. So as you can see here, we have a map of Paris. Paris is divided in what we call arrondissement, all right? So arrondissement, that's basically the borough in English, the district, if you will. So, for instance, we have here le premier arrondissement, le troisième arrondissement, le 20e arrondissement, and so on and so forth, right? arrondissement, yeah, the district of Borough. So we have here la Tour Eiffel, the Eiffel Tower, se trouve, so is found, is, dans le, and this is what we have to fill in, okay? We have to find the arrondissement where it is located, and then you can say se trouve dans le premier, le deuxième, le troisième, le septième arrondissement, wherever you can find it on the map. Okay, so that's what you're gonna have to do. So try to find for each location, right? La Tour Eiffel, for instance, Bercy, l'Arc de Triomphe, le Louvre, le Panthéon, le Sacré-Cœur. For each landmark, find the corresponding arrondissement on the map. All right, so you can pause the video and try by yourself. Let's go. All right, then, so let's correct. So La Tour Eiffel was located in le 7e arrondissement, indeed, right? That's le 7e arrondissement. Now, what about Bercy? All right, Bercy is right here. Le 12e arrondissement. Yeah, the 12th. Now, moving on to l'Arc de Triomphe. L'Arc de Triomphe se trouve dans le 8e arrondissement. Yeah, indeed. Le 8e arrondissement. Next, we have le Louvre. Le Louvre se trouve où? Il se trouve dans le 1er arrondissement. All right? Le 1er arrondissement, the first. Now, we also have le Panthéon. Le Panthéon, which is right here, right? Le Panthéon se trouve dans le 5e arrondissement. And finally, le Sacré-Cœur se trouve dans le 18e arrondissement, right? Here we go, right here, le Sacré-Cœur. And that's basically the end of this short lesson, everyone. We have one more incoming for the numbers about time. So I will see you on the next one. Bye-bye, everyone. Au revoir.
Hello everyone, welcome to our course. The purpose of this lesson is to help you practice your oral and your listening skills. We also want you to work on your pronunciation. We want you to be able to use your French as soon as possible in daily situation, in day-to-day stuff. That's why you will also find practical example and practical situations that you will encounter when you go to France. Don't hesitate to watch the videos more than one, do your exercises, and have a look at the PDF and the audio files that are also coming with all the package. Welcome to your French journey. In this video, we will see les présentations, the greetings in French. We also call it les salutations, and you will find 8 different parts. We will start with formal versus informal. Then we will see the greetings. We will also learn how to ask how are you and how to answer. Then we will move to give our name and age. After that, we'll see how to talk about residence and nationality. Also, we will see how to talk about your job, occupation, and your hobbies. We will learn how to say goodbye, and to finish, we'll have a cultural point and some practice. Let's start with some pronunciation. Le son A, A, and you will find it in papa, la, tâche. Don't hesitate to practice this sound. A. The second sound is E. E. You will find it in Paris and also in Chantilly. Chantilly. Now, formal versus informal. When should we use the vous form and the tu form? This is a question that comes back very often. Let's start with vous, the formal way. Firstly, you'll use vous whenever you are with strangers, whenever you're meeting somebody for the first time. You use the vous form because it allows you to show respect and keep some distance. And you will also use it in what we call formal context, like at work with your boss, also when you go to the shop, when you are in a train, in the restaurant, you would use the vous form. When do we use tu? You will actually use it with friends and family, which are people that you are really close to. You have a connection with them. And you can also use it in what we call informal context. So let's say you've been invited to a party, some friends invited you, and there you will meet some of their friends. Because somehow you have a connection, you have mutual friends, you can use tu with these new people. And when you are after work at the bar, for instance, you can also use tu because there is no more formal manners, things are much more casual, so people drop the formal act and use the tu much more easily. How to greet someone. We are going to have a look at 3 different ways. 2 formal and 1 informal. During the day, we use bonjour. Bonjour. After 6, we use bonsoir. Bonsoir. And in an informal way, you can use salut. Salut. Be careful, the T is silent. Salut. And usually the person you're talking to will just use the same. If I say bonjour, most of the time the other person would say bonjour. If I use bonsoir, I would expect a bonsoir. If I say salut, most likely they will say salut. How are you? How do we ask and how do we answer? Let's start with the formal way. Comment allez-vous? Comment allez-vous? Comment ça va? Comment ça va? And here, technically, we can drop the comment. And we can just go with ça va. Let's have a look at some answers now, starting with the formal way. Je vais bien, merci. Et vous? Et vous means and you. And this is what we use when we want to return the question. Je vais bien, merci. Et vous? In an informal way, I would say ça va bien, merci. Et toi? So here, et toi means also and you, but in an informal way. Ça va bien, merci. Et toi? Let's have a look at some nuances because, of course, sometimes you're feeling good, sometimes you're feeling not too bad. Other days you're like really good, and some other days you're like, I'm so today. Let's start with not bad. We will use pas mal. Pas mal. When you're feeling really good, très bien. Très bien. And when you're feeling so, bof. Bof. So I'm going to use them just with the informal way. Let's start with not bad. Ça va pas mal. Merci. Et toi? Ça va très bien. Merci. Et toi? Ça va bof. Merci. Et toi? What's your name? How do we ask somebody and how do we answer? Let's start with the formal way. Comment vous appelez-vous? Comment vous appelez-vous? Now, informal. Comment tu t'appelles? Comment tu t'appelles? Formal answer first. We will use je m'appelle and then you just fill up with your name. For example, je m'appelle Laetitia. Et vous? Informal way, we would use moi c'est and then you give your name. Moi c'est Laetitia. Et toi? We can also add enchanté. Enchanté. Nice to meet you. So for example, je m'appelle Laetitia. Enchantée. Moi, c'est Laetitia. Enchantée. How old are you? Let's talk about age here. And you need to know that in France, it's not impolite. It's okay to ask somebody how old they are. Usually, we are not really shy about that. And if you want to be able to tell your age, you need to watch the number video. Let's start with a formal question. Vous avez quel âge? Vous avez quel âge? Let's see the informal. Tu as quel âge? Tu as quel âge? Now, when we answer, formal and informal are very similar. We would use j'ai, then you actually put the number, and then you use en. For example, j'ai 37 ans. Et vous? J'ai 37 ans. Et toi? Attention, be careful. We also have what we call les liaisons. It's the linking. Between the number and the years, we link the two words. Let me give you some examples. When you want to say 2 years, you would say 2 ans. 2 ans, like if it was one word. For 3 years, we would say 3 ans. 3 ans. 6 years would be 6 ans. 6 ans. 9 years would be 9 ans. 9 ans. Now let's do some practice. Please, once again, if you haven't watched the number video, go have a look now and come back. Because here I'm going to give you some age sentences and you need to tell me what you hear. You need to guess the number. Let's get started. First question, if you remember, vous avez quel âge? Tu as quel âge? The first one is j'ai 20 ans. So what do you think? The second one is j'ai 36 ans. Third one, j'ai 43 ans. Fourth one, j'ai 70 ans. And the fifth one, j'ai 19 ans. Well done. So that's it for the first video. I will see you in the next one. Prononciation. Les sons OU and U. Those two sounds get quite confusing, so don't hesitate to practice them. Where do we find le son OU? You will find it in bouche, bouche, or in tour, tour. Le son U, you will find it in tu, tu, or voiture, voiture. Where are you from? Let's talk now about nationalities. First, we'll have a look at the questions, formal and informal way. Vous êtes d'où? Vous êtes d'où? Informal way. Tu es d'où? Tu es d'où? How do we answer? Let's have a look together. Be formal or informal, we'll use the same structure. The only thing that changes is the and you. And if you remember, how do we say and you in a formal way? Et vous. Exactly. What about the informal way? Et toi. C'est ça. To answer, you would say je suis de, and then you give your country. Je suis de France. Et vous? Je suis de France. Et toi? We'll have a look at 4 different countries. If you need more countries and nationality, just have a look at the PDF with the audio file. The first one, de France, from France, right? And the nationality would be français masculin, française féminin. Des États-Unis. Des États-Unis. When you are from the United States. And nationality would be américain, américaine. Du Royaume-Uni. Du Royaume-Uni. From the United Kingdom. As the nationality, we would use anglais, anglaise. If you are from Spain, we say d'Espagne, d'Espagne. And the nationality would be espagnol, espagnol. Same for male and female, we pronounce it the same way, just the spelling changes. Where do you live? Let's have a look at the question first. Formal, informal, and then how to answer. Vous habitez où? Vous habitez où? Tu habites où? Tu habites où? The answer will be the same. It's just if you want to ask back, you can use, you know it by now, right? J'habite à, and then you give your city. J'habite à Lublin. Let's have a look at 4 different cities with the French pronunciation. J'habite à Paris. Paris. Silent S. J'habite à Londres. Londres. Silent S as well. J'habite à New York. New York. J'habite à Tokyo. Tokyo. If you need more cities, just have a look at the PDF and the audio file. What's your occupation? Let's start with a formal question and then we'll see the informal question. Vous faites quoi dans la vie? Vous faites quoi dans la vie? Tu fais quoi dans la vie? Tu fais quoi dans la vie? And to answer, it's very simple, same for formal and informal. We just say, je suis. Je suis. I am. And then you give your profession, your occupation. Here we're gonna have a look at jobs or occupation. And the first one I'll give you is masculine and the second one is feminine. Je suis étudiant. Je suis étudiante. I'm a student. Je suis vendeur. Je suis vendeuse. I'm a salesperson. Je suis banquier. Je suis banquière. I work in a bank. Je suis avocat. Je suis avocate. I'm a lawyer. Je suis comptable. I am an accountant. And you can also just talk about the field where you work. For example, je suis dans la finance. I work in finance. What do you usually like doing? So here we're talking about your hobbies. First, we'll start with the questions and then we'll actually see how to answer and we'll have a look at some different activities. Formal way. En général, vous aimez faire quoi? En général, vous aimez faire quoi? Informal way. En général, tu aimes faire quoi? En général, tu aimes faire quoi? In order to answer, you just need to use j'aime. J'aime is I like. And then you actually add the activity that you enjoy doing. Here we have voyager. J'aime voyager. I like to travel. J'aime regarder des films. I like to watch movies. J'aime lire. I like to read. J'aime faire du sport. I like to do sports. J'aime faire du shopping. I like to do shopping. J'aime aller au restaurant. I like to go to the restaurant. And j'aime me promener. I like to go for walks. Et toi, tu aimes faire quoi? How to say goodbye. So we're gonna have a look at 2 formal ways and 2 informal ways to say goodbye. First, au revoir. Au revoir. That's a very classic. You probably heard it before. And if you remember, we saw salut at the beginning. We can use it to say hi, but we can also use it to say bye. Salut. À la prochaine. À la prochaine. See you next time. One more informal. Ciao, ciao. Ciao, ciao. It's a bit like bye-bye. Now it's time to practice together. You're gonna have to fill in the blanks. My side of the conversation is the blue one, but you can still guess where there are blanks there, and your side of the conversation is the red one. Let's get started. I would say, salut, ça va? Please fill in the blank on your side. You also have my answer, so you should be able to guess. Pareil, merci. Tu t'appelles comment? Moi, c'est Laetitia. Enchantée. Now, there is a blank section on my side. I'm going to show you the answer. Take a guess. What do you think I'm asking? Yeah. Well done. Le même âge que toi. Et you're gonna have to guess. What do you think I'm asking, since you have the answer there? Yeah, it's about your nationality, exactly. Je suis française, mais j'habite à Madrid. Tu fais quoi dans la vie? Your turn to answer. Moi, je travaille dans le marketing. Now take a guess at the question. Moi aussi. Je te dis à la prochaine alors. Okay, well done. Now we are going to actually check the answer and do it together. I read the blue section first and you read the red one when it shows, okay? Let's get started. Salut, ça va? Pareil, merci. Tu t'appelles comment? Moi, c'est Laetitia. Enchantée. Tu as quel âge? Le même âge que toi. Et tu es d'où? Je suis française, mais j'habite à Madrid. Tu fais quoi dans la vie? Moi, je travaille dans le marketing. Tu aimes faire quoi le week-end? Moi aussi. Je te dis à la prochaine alors. Bien joué. Well done. Let's have a look at the new vocabulary that you can see on the right upper corner. Hey, it means the same. Mais, we use it to say but. Je travaille. I work. Moi aussi. Me too. Je te dis alors. So, then. Let's see our cultural point. You might have heard of it. In France, we have a greeting custom. It's called la bise. When we see each other, we kiss each other on the cheeks. Depending on the department you're from, the amount of kisses is not the same. For instance, me in Finistère, we only give one kiss, which makes it really easy. But if you go somewhere like Corsica, they might give up to 5 kisses. So to avoid the situation where you just leave the other person waiting for more kisses, you can always ask them, how many kisses do you give? And you also need to know that for some people, you need to start either from the left cheek or from the right cheek. And because of that, sometimes you might nearly kiss each other on the mouth because you don't know where to start. So be mindful and always ask if you're not sure. Well done. This is the end of our first topic. I'll catch you in the next one. Au restaurant, at the restaurant. In this lesson, we will have 8 different parts and we'll see phrases to remember, phrases to understand, understanding the menu. There will be a grammar point. We'll also have a role play with a full scenario. After that, we'll do some practice. Then you have bonus vocabulary section. And to finish, you have the cultural point and more practice. Let's get started. Prononciation, deuxième partie. Pronunciation, second part. And this time, we're going to see E and E. First, le son E, we find it in lever or salle. We don't pronounce the E at the end of a word. So in salle, we actually don't pronounce E. Salle. We also have it in peureux. Peureux. And you will have it in œuf. Œuf. Or in beurre. Beurre. Now we have le son O with 3 different spellings, but it sounds exactly the same. And then we have le son O. This one is more open. O. So first one, moto, chaud, beau. Even though it's spelled differently, the sound is exactly the same. Then we have O, like in port, port. Sentences to remember. When you're ready to order, you can use one of the 2 following options. You can go with je voudrais. Je voudrais, s'il vous plaît. I would like, fill in the blanks. please. Your second option is je vais prendre, s'il vous plaît. Je vais prendre, s'il vous plaît. Same here, you fill in the blanks. Sometimes you need to catch the waiter or the waitress' attention. In that case, you can go with s'il vous plaît. S'il vous plaît. Or you can use excusez-moi. Excusez-moi. If you want to request something, use this. Pourrais-je avoir? Pourrais-je avoir? Then you need to indicate what you need, and to conclude, you use s'il vous plaît. So let's have a look at this example. Pourrais-je avoir une carafe d'eau, s'il vous plaît? Pourrais-je avoir une carafe d'eau, s'il vous plaît? Could I have a jug of water, please? Once you are ready to get the bill, you can use the same formulation, but you're just going to change une carafe d'eau for a bill. Pourrais-je avoir l'addition, s'il vous plaît? Pourrais-je avoir l'addition, s'il vous plaît? Sentences that you need to understand. Vous avez une réservation? Vous avez une réservation? Do you have a booking? Vous désirez? Vous désirez? What would you like? Vous avez choisi? Vous avez choisi? Did you decide? La cuisson pour. La cuisson pour. The cooking temperature for. Understanding the menu. L'entrée. The starter. Le plat principal. The main course. Le dessert. The dessert. L'apéritif. The aperitif. La boisson. The drink. La garniture. The sides. Le menu. La formule. So those are the two options when you want to say set menu. French traditional dishes and drinks. Des escargots. Those are the snails. Un bœuf bourguignon. The beef stew. Un steak tartare. Tartare. Un plateau de fromage. Cheese plate. Une crème brûlée. Crème brûlée. Un verre de vin rouge. A glass of red wine. Cooking level, menu and payment. Let's start with the cooking level of the red meat. We actually have 5 different cooking levels in French. The least cooked will be bleu. Then we have saignant, rosé, à point, bien cuit. And you need to know that in France, when you order a red meat, if you decide to go for à point or bien cuit, you might have some feedback from your waiter or waitress because it's not really a custom for us to actually order red meat well cooked unless you are pregnant. So you might sense some like attitude from the waiting staff if you decide to order red meat but have it well done. Bear this in mind. The culture is more to order your meat bleu, saignant ou rosé. The ways to order. You can either go for une formule or un menu, which is set menu, or you can go à la carte. So this is when you can pick your item separately from la carte. The payment. You can either payer en carte ou payer en espèces. So you can pay by card or by cash. And if you need, you can ask for un reçu, a receipt. Let's have a look at the different subject pronouns. We'll start with the singular and then we'll go with the plural. The first one is je, which is I, je. Then we have tu, which is you, il, he, elle, she, Now plural. Nous, which is we. Vous. This one is the you, and you use it with one person when you want to keep your distance and show some respect, or you can use it with a group of people. Il. So yes, there is an S, but it's silent. This is they, and it's masculine. Elle. So the same, the S is silent. This is they, but feminine only. And you need to know that if you have a group with one man and 100 women, we will use il with an S because masculine prevail in French. When it's just a group of ladies, then you can use elle with an S. Now we have an exercise. You need to link the correct pronoun with the good translation. Which letter with which number? You have a choice between I, you, he, she, we, they. I'm going to read each sentence. You can pause in between and decide which pronoun is the correct one. Let's get started. Il s'appelle Vincent. J'ai 15 ans. Nous sommes français. Vous êtes d'où? Ils sont banquiers. Tu viens d'où? Let's have a look at the answers. Il s'appelle Vincent. The correct answer was C. J'ai 15 ans. The correct answer is A. Nous sommes français. The correct answer is I. Vous êtes d'où? The correct answer is B. Ils sont banquiers. The correct answer is F. Tu viens d'où? The correct answer is B again. Prononciation, still part 2. Let's have a look at leçon E. E. We have different spellings, but the pronunciation will remain the same. Let's check the examples. Bébé, chez, manger, et. Leçon est. Different spellings, same pronunciation. Let's have a look at the examples. Mer, pêche, Noël, balai, neige, poulet, c'est, tu es. How does it work in this part of the PowerPoint? Because now we're going to have two different sets of vocabulary. You're going to have the sentences from the waiting staff, the waiter and the waitress, and then there will be your part. When it comes to the blue part, the waiting staff part, you don't need to remember everything. What you need to memorize is the keyword which will be underlined. So for example, in a sentence such as Bonjour, vous avez une réservation? Here, the word that you need to remember is une réservation. This is your keyword and it's underlined. So along this lesson, you will find the underlined words. Those are the ones that you should remember. Because in the real life, sentences might vary. People might address you in different ways, but the keyword should remain the same. Now, when it comes to your section, the red one, you have sentences to memorize with key structure, and those ones will be underlined. So this is what you have to learn in order to be able to express yourself fully in French. So this is your part. You need to memorize it and reuse it as a key structure. The arrival at the restaurant. The waiter or the waitress will most likely ask you if you have a booking. Bonjour, vous avez une réservation? So here you can see you have it underlined, réservation. This is the keyword you need to learn. Now, how can you answer to this? Let's consider that you don't have a booking. So we'll go with a negative answer. Non, je n'ai pas réservé. Non, je n'ai pas réservé. Now, if you do have a booking, we'll go with positive answer. Oui, au nom de, and then you give your name. Oui, au nom de Thomas. Now, if you don't have a booking, there will be one more question to answer. C'est pour combien de personnes? C'est pour combien de personnes? So here, they need to know how many people will be having the dinner or the lunch. So they can propose you a table accordingly to the number. Pour, and then you need to precise. 1, 2, 3, 5, 10 personnes. S'il vous plaît. For example, pour 5 personnes, s'il vous plaît. And then they will invite you to follow them to the table. Veuillez me suivre, s'il vous plaît. Now you're sitting and it's time to order. And we go with à la carte to start. Vous désirez un apéritif pour commencer? Vous désirez un apéritif pour commencer? Would you like an aperitif to start? If you decide not to, they might just ask you, vous avez choisi? Here we'll see 3 different ways to answer. First one, we are going to use je voudrais. Oui, je voudrais. And tell them what you like. S'il vous plaît. For example, oui, je voudrais un verre de vin rouge. S'il vous plaît. Or we can use je vais prendre. Oui, je vais prendre un verre de vin rouge. S'il vous plaît. Now, let's say you're not ready yet to choose. You can just say non, pas encore. If you were to order with la formule or le menu, so if you go with the set menu, it's a bit different. They'll ask you the same. Vous avez choisi? Now, this time you need to give the full order when it comes to starter and mains. And you need to precise which formule or which menu you'll take, because sometimes you have multiple options. Here we will use je vais prendre. Oui, je vais prendre le menu à 15 €, s'il vous plaît. And then you precise which starter and which main. En entrée, je vais prendre. So as a starter, I'll take. En plat, je vais prendre. As a main, I will take. Now, let's consider you ordered some red meat, a steak. They'll ask you which cooking temperature. Vous désirez quelle cuisson pour la viande? Vous désirez quelle cuisson pour la viande? And then you just give the cooking temperature and say please. Saignant, s'il vous plaît. Now, if you need anything, use this. Excusez-moi, to grab your waiter's attention. Oui, vous désirez? Pourrais-je avoir? Tell them what you need. And then, s'il vous plaît. A bit of extra vocabulary. Une carafe d'eau. Une carafe d'eau. Jug of water. Du pain. Du pain. Some bread. Une serviette. Une serviette. A napkin. L'addition. Do you remember what it was? The bill. Yes. So let's try just one to see. Pourrais-je avoir du pain, s'il vous plaît? And then they will most likely use something like that. Oui, bien sûr. Je vous apporte ça tout de suite. It's the end of the meal, so it's time for a feedback check. Tout s'est bien passé? Everything went fine? We consider that you had an amazing meal. Oui, c'était parfait. Oui, c'était parfait. It was perfect. Vous désirez un dessert ou un café? Would you like a dessert or coffee? So let's say you do want something. Oui, je voudrais, s'il vous plaît. Oui, je voudrais un café, s'il vous plaît. Now, let's consider that you're done, but you would like the bill. Non merci. L'addition, s'il vous plaît. Non merci. L'addition, s'il vous plaît. Now, it's time to pay. They will ask you how you actually want to make the payment. Vous souhaitez payer par carte ou en espèces? Vous souhaitez payer par carte ou en espèces? Now you choose if you want to pay by card, par carte, if you want to pay cash, en espèces. Now they give you your receipt and they wish you a good day. Merci. Voici le reçu en vous souhaitant une bonne journée. And it's your turn. Merci. Bonne journée à vous aussi. Okay, let's do some practice. You have to fill in the blanks. Bonjour. Vous avez réservé? C'est pour combien de personnes? D'accord. Veuillez me suivre. Vous désirez un apéritif pour commencer? Vous avez choisi? D'accord, c'est bien noté. Vous désirez un café ou un dessert? Vous souhaitez payer par carte ou en espèces? Voici votre reçu en vous souhaitant une bonne soirée. Yay! Bien joué. Well done. Now let's have a look at each answer and then we can practice one more time together. Bonjour. Vous avez réservé? Non, je n'ai pas réservé. C'est pour combien de personnes? Une personne, s'il vous plaît. D'accord, veuillez me suivre. Vous désirez un apéritif pour commencer? Oui, je voudrais un verre de vin rouge, s'il vous plaît. Vous avez choisi? Oui, je vais prendre un menu à 15 €. En entrée, je vais prendre les escargots. En plat, je vais prendre le poulet fermier. D'accord? C'est bien noté. The main course is finished, so new question. Vous désirez un café ou un dessert? Non merci, juste l'addition s'il vous plaît. Vous souhaitez payer par carte ou en espèces? Par carte, s'il vous plaît. Voici votre reçu en vous souhaitant une bonne soirée. Bonne soirée à vous aussi. Bien joué. I hope this was good practice for you. Don't hesitate to do it again, to rewatch it. Point culturel, le fromage. French people love their cheese. France has so many different types of cheeses that you could eat a different one every day. Yes, we have at least 300 different types of cheeses. Which one is your favorite? Transport and directions. In this lesson, we will have 8 different sections. We'll have some pronunciation, vocabulary, how to buy a ticket and a pass, être and avoir, the 2 verbs, pronunciation again, ask directions, vocabulary again, and a cultural point and some practice. Let's get started. Prononciation, les voyelles nasales. So today we're going to see 3 different sounds. First, we have le son en. Then we have le son and then we have le son un, en, un. Okay, let's see some examples. With le son en, we have champ, chambre, parent, temple. Now the sound on. We have pont, concombre. Le son un. We have brun, parfum, malin, timbre, synthèse, teint. Still le son un. We find it also in peinture, rince, pain, d'un. And one more, examen. Transportation. Let's have a look at some vocabulary. First, we have le train. Le train. We also have le TGV. Le TGV. So train, and le TGV for us is the fast train. After, we have le métro. Le métro. The subway, the underground, MTR, it goes by so many different names. Le tram, which is le tramway, the tram. Le bus, the bus. Le vélo, bicycle. Le taxi, the cab. Now let's have a look at other things around the transportation, such as un ticket, a ticket. Un pass, just like a pass or a subway card. La sortie, the exit. Un aller simple, This is a one-way ticket. Un aller-retour, This is a return ticket. Le guichet. This is like the cashier where you can actually get your ticket and passes. Let's have a look at a subway line. Une ligne de métro. There are some keywords that you need to know. For example, une station. Une station, or we also call it un arrêt, un arrêt. So it's either a station or an actual stop. Une correspondance. Une correspondance. That's a transfer. La direction. La direction. That's the direction of your subway. And le terminus. Le terminus. This is the last stop. And of course, you have direction both ways, right? So we saw the first one. Now on the other side, it's also la direction. La direction. And you will also have le terminus. Le terminus. The last stop in that direction. Sentences that you need to remember. How to buy a ticket. When you want to buy a ticket, use one of the following sentences. Je voudrais un ticket pour, then you add your destination. S'il vous plaît. Or you could say, je voudrais aller à, give your destination, s'il vous plaît. Je voudrais un ticket pour Saint-Denis, s'il vous plaît. Je voudrais aller à Saint-Denis, s'il vous plaît. And you can precise if you want either to have un aller simple, a single way ticket, or un aller-retour, a return ticket. Now you want to ask for the price. Use this. Combien ça coûte, s'il vous plaît? Combien ça coûte, s'il vous plaît? And the answer you might get would be, oui, cela fera euro, s'il vous plaît. So I give you an example. Oui, cela fera 1,50 €, s'il vous plaît. That would be the cost. How to buy a pass. If you want to request a pass, you can use this sentence. You might remember it from before. Pourrais-je avoir un pass? Then you need to precise for how long. Pourrais-je avoir un pass pour jour? Or pourrais-je avoir un pass pour semaine? So the first option is the amount of days and the second option is for how many weeks. S'il vous plaît. Par exemple, pourrais-je avoir un pass pour 5 jours, s'il vous plaît? Or pourrais-je avoir un pass pour une semaine, s'il vous plaît? Now, they might ask you for which zone. And the question would be, pour quelle zone? And now you need to precise. 1 à 3, s'il vous plaît. Let's have a look at the type of transportation you will find in Paris. First, we have what we call le RER. Le RER. And it has 5 lines, 5 lignes. This is like between a train and a MTR. Then we have le métro. Le métro. And le métro, il a 18 lignes. It has 18 lines. Then we have le tram. Le tram. And le tram a 14 lignes. 14 lines. And then we have what we call le Vélib. Le Vélib. And it's a bicycle rental service. So you can cycle through the city as well. We are going to buy a metro ticket. Bonjour, je voudrais un ticket pour Nation, s'il vous plaît. Oui, cela fera 2,50 € s'il vous plaît. Je vais payer par carte. Je vais payer en espèces. Voici votre ticket. Bonne journée à vous. Merci, à vous aussi. Now we're going to buy a metro pass. Bonjour, je voudrais un pass Navigo pour 2 jours, s'il vous plaît. Oui. Pour quelle zone? Pour les zones 1 à 3. Oui, cela fera 15,50 €, s'il vous plaît. Je vais payer par carte. Je vais payer en espèces. Voici votre passe. Bonne journée à vous. Merci. À vous aussi. Now, let's have a look at les verbes être et avoir. We will start with to be, être. First, we have je suis, I am. Tu es, you are. Il est, elle est. He is, she is. Nous sommes, we are. Vous êtes, you are. Ils sont, elles sont. They are masculine and they are feminine. One more time. Je suis, tu es, il est, elle est. Nous sommes, vous êtes, ils sont, elles sont. Now let's have a look at avoir. To have. J'ai. I have. Tu as. You have. Il a. Elle a. He has. She has. Nous avons. We have. Vous avez. You have. Ils ont. Elles ont. They have. One more time. J'ai. Tu as. Il a. Elle a. Nous avons. Vous avez. Ils ont. Elles ont. Now let's practice. On the left, as you can see, we have 6 different forms. We have the verb to be and the verb to have in English, and you have to match it with the French options. Let me read each one and we'll do the exercise together. Nous avons le temps. Ils sont japonais. Je suis fatigué. Tu as froid. Elle a 22 ans. Vous êtes d'où? So let's find the right answers together. First one, numéro 1. Nous avons le temps. And the answer is E in French. We have. Numéro 2. Ils sont japonais. The answer is C. They are. Numéro 3. Je suis fatigué. Here the correct answer is A. I am. Numéro 4. Tu as froid? The correct answer is F, the singular form of you. You have. Numéro 5. Elle a 22 ans. The correct answer here is D. She has. Numéro 6. Vous êtes d'où? The correct answer is B. Formal you are. So, how was it? Did you get everything right? Now we're going to see the silent, final, consonant and letters. Je ne prononce pas. Here we're going to see the cases when we don't pronounce letters. There are some exceptions, okay? So we'll also have a look at it. But usually we don't pronounce the letters in the following situations. Le H. The H is silent in French. So if we have a look, we don't pronounce it. T, hôtel. Now, the S at the end of any word is silent. Par exemple, Paris or parc. All the consonants are supposed to be silent apart from the following ones. C, R, F, and L are usually pronounced. And there are some exceptions. If you think about the C, for example, when you have the word blanc, which is white, we don't pronounce the C. Blanc. So let's have a look at some examples. Long, temps, quand, saint. With all these words, we don't pronounce the final consonant. Now, there are some exceptions, especially when you have a word from a foreign origin. So if you have a look at shopping, we pronounce the G, le G, because it's from English, shopping. And sometimes you have a word that it's spelled the same way, but it has a different meaning. So we'll pronounce it differently. So for example, if you have a look here, the word un fait, we pronounce the T. Here, let's have a look at the one that we actually pronounce. Le C, for the letter C, we have vrac, lac. With the letter R, we have bar, car. With the letter F, we have bref, neuf. With the letter L, we have il. Just a reminder, in red, you have the letter that you pronounce, and in blue, you have the letter that you don't pronounce, silent one. How to ask directions. Let's have a look at the question. Comment fait-on pour aller à s'il vous plaît? You just have to precise where you want to go. So, for example, comment fait-on pour aller au Louvre, s'il vous plaît? But you can also use this sentence. Où se trouve, s'il vous plaît? For example, où se trouve le Louvre, s'il vous plaît? If you're looking for something nearby, you can use this sentence. Où se trouve le ou la plus proche, s'il vous plaît? So let's say you're looking for the nearest tube station. Où se trouve la station de métro la plus proche, s'il vous plaît? Or maybe you're looking for the nearest supermarket. Où se trouve le supermarché le plus proche, s'il vous plaît? Understanding the actual transportation journey. Pour aller à, prenez la ligne direction. So, to go to whichever destination you have to go to, take the line direction. So they give you the line number or letter and the direction to follow. And then they will indicate you where to stop. Descendez à. So here they would just fill in the blank with the actual stop. Descendez à. In red we have un trajet direct. That's a direct trip. Un trajet avec correspondance. This is a trip where you need to make a transfer. So, for example, pour aller à, prenez la ligne direction. Now we're going to have a transfer. Puis changez à, pour la ligne direction city locations. Let's start with la gare. La gare, the train station. Le parc. Le parc. The park. La pharmacie. La pharmacie. The pharmacy. L'église. L'église. The church. Le musée. Le musée. The museum. La banque. La banque. The bank. How to locate a place. So we're going to see some prepositions here. First we have devant le parc, in front of. À gauche de la banque, on the left of the bank. À côté de la gare, next to the train station. Derrière l'hôtel, behind the hotel. À droite de la banque, to the right of the bank. En face de l'église. In front of the church. Understanding where is the place located. Let's have a look. We have a few examples here. La banque se trouve à côté de. You can find the bank next to. L'église se trouve en face de. The church is located in front of. Le Louvre se trouve derrière. The Louvre Museum is located behind. Then we can add la plus proche or le plus proche when you want the nearest location. Par exemple, la banque la plus proche se trouve à côté de. The nearest bank is located next to. Or, le parc le plus proche se trouve en face de. The nearest park is located in front of. Now, a little exercise for you. Vrai ou faux? True or false? We have the map of the city. You need to decide if the following statements are true or false. L'école est derrière la pharmacie. C'est faux. Le cinéma est à côté de l'église. C'est vrai. Le supermarché est en face de la banque. C'est vrai. Now, guess the dialogue. We have a metro and tramway map and we know our starting point, Station Pardieu. We know our destination, Station Bellecour. And our goal is to get one ticket and ask for directions. Bonjour. You have to fill in the blanks knowing that I give you the answer. Oui, cela fera 2,50 € s'il vous plaît. Now, how would you ask for directions? Now, try to fill in my part. I would need the line, directions, and the transfer. Let's have a look at the answers and we can do it together. So you start with the red part. Oui, cela fera 2,50 € s'il vous plaît. Pour y aller, prenez la ligne B, direction Stade de Gerland. Puis changez à Saxe-Gambetta pour la ligne D, direction Gare de Vèze et descendez à Bellecour. Bien joué! Cultural point about le métro parisien, the subway in Paris. So Paris Metro is one of the densest systems in the world, and if you pay close attention once you visit Paris, you will notice that you are no further than 10-minute walk from a metro station, no matter where you are. À la boulangerie et au café. Ordering like a local at the bakery and at the cafe. This lesson will have 8 different parts. We'll do some pronunciation, we'll see sentences to remember, we'll have the first dialogue, then we'll jump to pronunciation part 2. After that, we'll see more vocabulary, we'll have a sentences section, a second dialogue, and to finish, we'll have our cultural point and some practice. Let's get started. Prononciation, quatrième partie. Pronunciation part 4. This time we're going to see what we call les diphthongues. We will have 3 different sounds. First we have le son wa, wa. Then we have le son oui, oui. And we'll finish with le son ouin, ouin. Wa, you will find it in bois and voyager, voyager. Le son oui, you will find it in aujourd'hui, aujourd'hui. And bruit, bruit. Le son ouin, you'll find it in juin, point, pingouin, pingouin. La boulangerie, at the bakery, sentences to remember. Ordering at the bakery. Some of those sentences we already know them, we've used them previously. So let's start with je voudrais. Je voudrais is I would like. Je vais prendre. Je vais prendre is I'm going to take. Il me faudrait. Il me faudrait. I'm going to need. Then you'll add the quantity and the actual object, the actual thing you would like to order. And to finish the sentence, you will add s'il vous plaît. Let's try with different examples. Je voudrais 2 baguettes, s'il vous plaît. Je vais prendre un croissant, s'il vous plaît. If you want a piece of cake, we'll say une part de, and then you give the name of your cake. Il me faudrait une part de tarte aux pommes, s'il vous plaît. Once you're done with your order, you can just use ce sera tout. Ce sera tout. That means it will be all. Now, sentences that you need to understand. Let's start with the questions. Vous désirez? What would you like? Qu'est-ce qu'il vous faut? What do you need? Avec ceci? Avec ceci? With this, like if you like some more items. Il vous fallait autre chose? Il vous fallait autre chose? Do you need anything else with this? If you forgot to give the quantity, the person at the store will ask you how many pieces do you need. Je vous en mets combien? Je vous en mets combien? So how many should I actually give you? When it's your turn to answer, use this sentence. Mettez-m'en. Mettez-m'en. Then you give the quantity. S'il vous plaît. For example, mettez-m'en 5, s'il vous plaît. Mettez-m'en 3, s'il vous plaît. Vocabulary from the bakery. Let's have a look at some delicious items here. Une baguette. Une baguette. Un croissant. Un croissant. Un pain au chocolat. Un pain au chocolat. Un éclair. Un éclair. Une tarte aux fraises. Une tarte aux fraises. Un chausson aux pommes. Un chausson aux pommes. The different type of baguettes and bread. Les différents types de baguettes et de pain. We have une tradition. We also say une tradie. Une demi-baguette. Une demi-baguette. Un pain de campagne. Un pain de campagne. Du pain de mie. Du pain de mie. Un pain brioché. Un pain brioché. Our first dialogue, how to make a simple order. The blue part is the baker part, my part, and the red part is the customer part. So it's yours. What I'm going to do, I'm going to read fully the dialogue first and then we're going to try to do it together. Okay? Bonjour. Qu'est-ce qu'il vous faut? Bonjour. Il me faudrait 2 croissants et un pain au chocolat, s'il vous plaît. Et avec ceci, ce sera tout. Cela vous fera 3,50 €. Je vais payer par carte. Je vais payer en espèces. Merci. Et voilà pour vous. Bonne journée. Merci. À vous aussi. Let's start from the beginning. I'll do the blue section and you do the red section. Are you ready? Bonjour. Qu'est-ce qu'il vous faut? Your turn. Et avec ceci, cela vous fera 3,50 €. Merci. Et voilà pour vous. Bonne journée. Well done. Good practice. Let's continue now. Now we have a dialogue at breakfast time. Once again, I'm going to read everything so you get the pronunciation. Then I will do the baker part and you will do the customer part. Let's go. Bonjour. Vous désirez? Bonjour. Je vais prendre une baguette et des chouquettes, s'il vous plaît. Pour les chouquettes, je vous en mets combien? Mettez-moi 6, s'il vous plaît. Et avec ceci, ah, oui, je vais également vous prendre 3 croissants, s'il vous plaît. D'accord, il vous fallait autre chose? Ce sera tout. Alors, nous avons une baguette, 3 croissants et 6 chouquettes. Cela vous fera 9,20 €, s'il vous plaît. Je vais payer par carte, je vais payer en espèces. Merci. Et voilà pour vous. Bonne journée. Merci. À vous aussi. Now, let's go back to the beginning. I will do the blue part, the baker, and you will take care of the customer part, the red one. Let's do it. Bonjour. Vous désirez? Pour les chouquettes, je vous en mets combien? Et avec ceci? D'accord, il vous fallait autre chose? Alors, nous avons une baguette, 3 croissants et 6 chouquettes. Cela vous fera 9,20 €, s'il vous plaît. Merci, et voilà pour vous. Bonne journée. Well done. Très bien. Point de grammaire. La négation. Negative sentences. How do we use the ne pas? Let's have a look first at the sentence structure. When you have a sentence in French, it will go as follows. Subject, verb, and object. Then around this you have to add your négation. First part of the négation is ne. It goes between the subject and the verb. Can be ne or an apostrophe if the verb starts with a vowel or an H. Then after the verb, you'll find the second part of the negation. Usually it's pas, but you might have some other forms. Let's have a look at them. And we have pas, plus, rien, jamais, personne. And after the second part of the negation, you have the object. There's something you need to know. Written and spoken French are different. So during a conversation, very often people would drop the ne. It will be non-existent. But when you have to write, please use it. It's very important. Otherwise, the sentence is grammatically wrong. Let's have a look at an example. First, the positive sentence. Je suis français. Now, when you use negation in French, you would say je ne suis pas français. Je ne suis pas français. So this would be the written form. Now, if it's spoken, it's correct to say je suis pas français. Je suis pas français. Je suis pas français. It means I am not French. Now it's your turn. We have a little exercise. On the left, you have 5 positive sentences and you actually have the type of négation you need to use. Let's start with the first one. J'aime les croissants. And here we need to use ne pas. Give it a try. Je n'aime pas les croissants. Here we have an apostrophe because aimer start with a vowel. Je n'aime pas les croissants. Numéro 2, il aime, and then we have ne personne. Try. Il n'aime personne. Here again, we have le verbe aimer, start with a vowel, so an apostrophe. Nous regardons la télé, and we use here ne jamais. Nous ne regardons jamais la télé. Next one. Vincent parle and ne plus. Vincent ne parle plus. And the last one. Ils font, and here we need to use ne and rien. Ils ne font rien. Très bien. Very good. So, did you find all the answers? Alors, pronunciation, prononciation, partie 4. And here we have les diphthongues, partie 2. Second part of diphthong. This time we're going to see the following sound. Le son I, le son aïe, le son ei, le son œil, et le son ouïe. Le son I, you will find it in qui, myrtille. Le son I, you will find it in travail, taille. Le son ei, you will find it in pareil, vieille. Le son œil, you will find it in accueil, feuille. Le son ouïe, you will find it in ratatouille, ratatouille. And brouillard, brouillard. Au café, sentences to remember. Once you get to the cafe, you have to tell them, you have to ask for a table if you haven't made a booking, and you have to say for how many people. Bonjour, une table pour personne, s'il vous plaît. Par exemple, bonjour, une table pour 3 personnes, s'il vous plaît. When it's summer or spring, if you want to sit indoor, you need to precise. À l'intérieur, à l'intérieur. If you wish to sit outside, outdoors, or on the terrace, then you could say en terrasse, en terrasse. 2 sentences to understand. Qu'est-ce que je vous sers? Qu'est-ce que je vous sers? What should I serve you? Vous désirez? Vous désirez? We know this one. What does that mean? What would you like? Yes. When you order a beverage, you can ask with or without ice. Avec glaçon. With ice. Sans glaçon. Without ice. Once you're done and you've made the payment, and if you want the waiter or the waitress to keep the change as a tip, use this. Vous pouvez garder la monnaie. Vous pouvez garder la monnaie. You can keep the change. The French coffee culture. Important to know. There are some informations that you need to know. Fumer, to smoke. French people, especially Parisian, tend to smoke a lot. Since fumer à l'intérieur is forbidden, which means smoking inside is forbidden, they will often go en terrasse. Les passants. Les passants is like the people passing by. Parisian loves to have coffee while smoking une cigarette, a cigarette, and watching les passants, watching the people passing by. This is why when you go en terrasse, you will notice that the seats are always facing the street. This is part of the coffee culture. This is like a national sport. I love doing it. When I go to Paris, I'll just sit en terrasse and I will watch les passants and I will just chat with my friend while eating or drinking something. I advise you to try it next time you go. Le pourboire. Le pourboire is the tip. Le pourboire is not mandatory in France. Service fee is included, but you can leave up to 5 euros to the waiter if you are really satisfied. If you had a good time and if the service was good and you enjoyed the food or the drinks, leave a pourboire. It's always nice. Les boissons chaudes. Hot drinks. Un café gourmand. Un café gourmand. Un expresso. Un expresso. Un cappuccino. Un cappuccino. Un café crème. Un café crème. Un chocolat chaud. Un chocolat chaud. Un thé. Un thé. Les boissons froides. Cold drinks. Un jus de fruits. Un jus de fruits. Un verre de vin. Un verre de vin. Une bière. Une bière. Un soda. Un soda. Une bouteille d'eau. Une bouteille d'eau. Un cocktail. Un cocktail. You can always have a look at the PDF where you have more options when it comes to drinks, and it's also audio file so you can get the pronunciation right. Second dialogue, this time au café, at the coffee place. I would read everything and then we're gonna do it together. Let's get started. Bonjour, une table pour 2 personnes s'il vous plaît. D'accord, vous préférez être en terrasse ou à l'intérieur? En terrasse, s'il vous plaît. Qu'est-ce que je vous sers? Je vais prendre un café gourmand et un coca sans glaçons, s'il vous plaît. Je vous apporte ça tout de suite. Alors, voilà le café gourmand pour monsieur et le coca sans glaçons pour mademoiselle. Excusez-moi, l'addition, s'il vous plaît. Et voilà pour vous. Vous souhaitez payer par carte ou en espèces? Je vais vous payer en espèces. Vous pouvez garder la monnaie. Merci beaucoup. Veuillez passer une bonne journée. Merci. À vous aussi. Now we're going to do it together. You are the one starting. Red section is yours. Blue section is mine. D'accord. Vous préférez être en terrasse ou à l'intérieur? Qu'est-ce que je vous sers? Je vous apporte ça tout de suite. Alors, voilà le café gourmand pour monsieur et le coca sans glaçons pour mademoiselle. Et voilà pour vous. Vous souhaitez payer par carte ou en espèces? Merci beaucoup. Veuillez passer une bonne journée. Well done. How was it? Don't hesitate to do it multiple times. Here we have a different exercise. You need to link each waiter or baker sentence with the correct answer. I'm going to read the waiter and baker's line first. Et avec ceci, Qu'est-ce que je vous sers? Je vous en mets combien? Veuillez passer une bonne journée. Cela fera 13,50 € s'il vous plaît. Let's have a look at the potential answers, then pause the video, try to match them, and have a look at the correction slide. Je vais prendre un jus d'orange s'il vous plaît. Voilà, vous pouvez garder la monnaie. Merci, à vous aussi. Je vais vous prendre également un pain au chocolat s'il vous plaît. Mettez-moi 3 parts s'il vous plaît. Mettez-moi 3 parts s'il vous plaît. Now, please pause the video, try to match the baker and waiter sentence to the correct answers. Okay, correction time. Correction. Et avec ceci, so the correct answer would be je vais vous prendre également un pain au chocolat s'il vous plaît. With the sentence qu'est-ce que je vous sers? The answer was je vais prendre un jus d'orange s'il vous plaît. To the question je vous en mets combien? The answer was mettez-moi 3 parts s'il vous plaît. To the sentence veuillez passer une bonne journée. The answer would be merci, à vous aussi. And to the last one, cela fera 13,50 € s'il vous plaît. The answer was voilà, vous pouvez garder la monnaie. What's your score? Did you manage to match everything? Now our cultural point. Are French people addicted to bakeries? Accro aux boulangeries. France has unsurprisingly the highest density of bakery in the world. Bread culture is so important in France that there is a law to prevent all the bakery to close at the same time during the summer month. That's it for this video. I will see you in the next one. Les visites et recommandations. In this lesson we'll have 8 different parts. We'll start with pronunciation, then first part of grammar, vocabulary, sentences, second part of grammar, second part of pronunciation, exercises and dialogue, and to conclude we'll have a cultural point and a practice point. Prononciation, cinquième partie. Pronunciation part 5. Les consonnes, consonant. We'll start with le son K, S, and Z. K, S, Z. Le son K. You can see that we have 3 different spellings, and if you have a look at the last one, C. When you come across a combination of C and A, C and O, C and U, then we pronounce them as follow. Ka, ko, ku. Kakoku. Let's have a look at some examples. Kayak, kayak. Qualité, qualité. Carton, carton. Then le son S. We have 5 different ways to write it, but the sound will be the same. The examples: salle, salle. Basse, basse. Glaçon, glaçon. Cela, cela. Cinéma, cinéma. Cynique, cynique. Si, si. Le son Z. And we have 2 ways here to write it. You'll find it in zo, zo, and basilic, basilic. A little grammar point. Now we're going to talk about the articles in French, and more precisely about un, une, des, and le, la, les. When do we use them? In English we have a, and it means some. What will be the equivalent in French? With a masculine noun you will use un, un. For example, un parc, un musée, un hôtel. With a feminine noun, you would use une. Une. Une expo, une brochure, une église. When it's plural, we use des. Des. Des expos, des parcs, des musées. The in English will go as follow in French. For a masculine noun, we will either use le or l'apostrophe. L'apostrophe, you use it in front of the noun when it starts with a vowel or an H. For example, le parc, le musée, l'hôtel. L'hôtel, here you use the apostrophe because of the H. When the noun is feminine, we use la or l'apostrophe. L'expo, la brochure, l'église. And when it's plural, we use les. Les hôtels, les églises, les brochures. Here we have an exercise. And you need to fill in the blanks with the right article. So first let's have a look at all the sentences and then you'll decide what to put. First one, c'est parc. C'est Tour Eiffel. C'est Arc de Triomphe. Il y a touristes. Ce sont Champs-Élysées. C'est église. So just put the video on pause and try to fill in the blank by yourself. Decide if you want to use un, une, des, or le, la, les, and l'apostrophe. Then when you're ready, launch back the video and we will do the corrections together. Correction. C'est un parc. C'est une église. Il y a des touristes. C'est l'Arc de Triomphe. C'est la Tour Eiffel. Ce sont les Champs-Élysées. Les visites. Vocabulaire. Un musée. Un musée. Une exposition. Une exposition. But we like to say une expo in French. Une galerie d'art. Une galerie d'art. Un monument. Un monument. Une boutique souvenir. Une boutique souvenir. Un quartier. Un quartier. Les horaires. Les horaires. Le tarif. Le tarif. Le plan. Le plan. La brochure. La brochure. Un audio guide. Un audio guide. Un passe visite. Un passe visite. Sentences to remember. How to express your taste and desires. First, we have je veux. Je veux. I want. And you will use it with a verb. For example, je veux profiter de la nuit parisienne. Je veux profiter de la nuit parisienne. I want to enjoy Paris nightlife. Je veux faire les magasins. Je veux faire les magasins. I want to do some shopping. Je veux visiter les musées. Je veux visiter les musées. I want to visit museums. We can also use j'aime. J'aime is I like, and after j'aime you have to add le, la, les, and a noun. For example, j'aime l'art. J'aime l'art. J'aime la cuisine. J'aime la cuisine. J'aime l'architecture. J'aime l'architecture. If you want to ask for recommendations, remember those sentences. First option, vous me conseillez quoi? Then we're going to use comme and a noun. And the noun usually describes the category. And to finish the sentence, we'll use s'il vous plaît. We can also start the sentence with vous me recommandez quoi? And then middle and end are the same. Let's try with some examples. Vous me conseillez quoi comme musée, s'il vous plaît? What kind of museum would you suggest, please? Vous me conseillez quoi comme parc, s'il vous plaît? What kind of park do you suggest? Vous me conseillez quoi comme restaurant, s'il vous plaît? What kind of restaurant do you suggest? Now let's use the second option. Vous me recommandez quoi comme musée, s'il vous plaît? Vous me recommandez quoi comme parc, s'il vous plaît? Vous me recommandez quoi comme restaurant, s'il vous plaît? If you want to ask for more information, you can use this one. We actually have seen it before. Pourrais-je avoir? We know that one. Pourrais-je avoir? And then you add what you need and you finish your sentence with s'il vous plaît. Let's try. Pourrais-je avoir une brochure en anglais, s'il vous plaît? Could I have a leaflet in English, please? Pourrais-je avoir un audio guide, s'il vous plaît? Could I have an audio guide, please? Pourrais-je avoir un plan, s'il vous plaît? Could I have a map, please? Pourrais-je avoir les horaires, s'il vous plaît? Could I have the timetable, please? Pourrais-je avoir le tarif, s'il vous plaît? Could I have the pricing, please? Understanding recommendations. Now someone is actually telling you what you should or could go and visit. They would most likely start the sentence as follow. Je vous recommande, and then they'll give you the name of the place. Je vous recommande le jardin du Luxembourg. Je vous recommande le cimetière Père-Lachaise. Je vous recommande la fondation Louis Vuitton. There is another option. Je vous conseille. Je vous conseille. Je vous conseille le jardin du Luxembourg. Je vous conseille le cimetière Père-Lachaise. Je vous conseille la fondation Louis Vuitton. There is another structure. We can keep je vous recommande or je vous conseille, but then it could be followed by de and a verb, like this. Je vous recommande de visiter les catacombes. Or, je vous conseille de marcher le long de la Seine. So the first formulation is followed by a name and a place, when the second structure is followed by an action. We have a third option, and this is about must do. Il faut absolument faire. Il faut absolument faire le jardin du Luxembourg. Like, you must go and see it. You must go and visit it. Or, il faut absolument faire la fondation Louis Vuitton. Things that you can do, things that you can visit in Paris. À Paris, il y a beaucoup de choses à faire. Voici une liste des incontournables. Those ones, you shouldn't miss them. Let's have a look together. La Tour Eiffel, le Louvre, les Champs-Élysées, Notre-Dame, Montmartre, le Marais, la Défense. Second grammary point. This time we're going to see verbs of the first group and how to actually conjugate them. The verb of the first groups are the verbs that are finishing by ER, ER en français. Here we have 4 of them. We have écouter, aimer, parler, et raconter. So you can see that the base is in blue and the ending, the ER ending, is in red. In order to know how to conjugate, you need to identify what's the subject. Is it je, tu, il, elle, nous, vous, or il, elle au pluriel? You will keep the base of your verb. So here we're going to have écoute, aime, parle, raconte. And it's the ending that will vary. La terminaison, it's the ending. When your subject is je, you will use I. When your subject is tu, you will use is. When your subject is il and elle, you will use I. When your subject is nous, you will use o and s. When your subject is vous, you will use iz. And when your subject is il and elle, but in the plural form, you would use ent. And be careful, ent is actually silent. We don't pronounce it. So as you can see, you have the subject matching the ending. Here is an example with le verbe aimer, with the verb to like. The conjugation will go as follows. J'aime, tu aimes, il, elle aime, nous aimons. Be careful, liaison. Nous aimons. Vous aimez. Liaison again. Vous aimez. Ils aiment. Elles aiment. Liaison. Ils aiment. Elles aiment. And as you can hear, ent is silent. Okay, now it's your turn. We have 6 pronouns and 6 verbs. You need to match them. So let's start with the pronouns first. So we have je, nous, which is Martin et moi, elle pour Marie, il pour mes amis, vous and tu. Now our 6 verbs are the following. Aimons, parler, raconte, écoute, essaye, mange. Put the video on pause and try to match the subject with the correct verb. Then I will give you the answers. A, 6. A, 6. Je mange. B, 1. B1. Martin et moi aimons. Nous aimons. C, 4. C4. Marie écoute. Elle écoute. D3. D3. Il raconte. Mes amis racontent. E2. E2. Vous parlez. And then the last one. F5. F5. Tu essayes. Did you find the correct answers? Consonant part 2. Les consonnes, deuxième partie. And this time we're going to see la lettre R. The letter R. This one is not easy to pronounce, I know. R. The letter R has like 4 different strengths. And we're going to have a look at it together. When R is at the end of a word, it sounds more like an H in English. Like in soir. Soir. It's like, or in bonjour. Bonjour. When R is at the beginning of a word, it's soft. Like in rêve. Rêve. Or in rester. Rester. Now, when you have a single R or double R in the middle of a word, its strength is pretty average. Like in merde. Merde. Or in terre. Terre. When R is grouped with a consonant, then we have a stressed R. It is much stronger, like in gramme, gramme. You can really hear it, right? Or in prêt, prêt. R is not easy to pronounce, but if you keep practicing, you get better at it. Now, time for a little exercise. You need to link each sentences to the correct translation. And on the right, there is also some missing vocabulary, and it's your job to find the meaning of those new words. I'm going to read the French sentences first. Après ma visite, je veux faire les magasins. C'est ma première fois ici. Je voudrais un tarif enfant. Vous me conseillez quoi comme musée dans le quartier? Bon séjour. Now let's have a look at the English translation. Have a good stay. I would like a ticket for children. Which nearby museum would you recommend me? After my visit, I want to go shopping. It's my first time here. Now let's have a look at the missing vocabulary. You need to find the meaning for après, ici, un séjour, dans, une première fois, un enfant. You can either pause the video or just join me on the next page where the answer would just be shown one by one. Correction. Numéro 1. Après ma visite, je veux faire les magasins. The right answer was, after my visit, I want to go shopping. C'est ma première fois ici. It's my first time here. Numéro 3. Je voudrais un tarif enfant. I would like a ticket for children. Numéro 4. Vous me conseillez quoi comme musée dans le quartier? Which nearby museum would you recommend? Numéro 5. Bon séjour. Have a good stay. Now let's have a look at the missing vocabulary. Après means after. Ici means here. Un séjour is a stay. Dans is in. Une première fois, a first time. Un enfant, a child. Did you link all the sentences correctly? And did you find all the missing vocab? Let's do some dialogue practice. This one is dialogue à un inconnu. This is a dialogue with the strangers, so we'll use the formal language. Like before, I would read everything first, and then you will do the red part, and I will do the blue part. Let's get started. Bonjour, excusez-moi, c'est ma première fois à Paris. Vous me conseillez quoi comme musée dans le quartier? Vous aimez l'art contemporain? Oui, j'aime beaucoup. Alors, je vous conseille de visiter la Fondation Louis Vuitton. Merci beaucoup. Passez une bonne journée. À vous aussi. Bon séjour. This is the first part of the dialogue. So now let's do it together. I do the blue part and you do the red one. And you're the one starting. Vous aimez l'art contemporain? Alors, je vous conseille de visiter la Fondation Louis Vuitton. À vous aussi et bon séjour. Now we are at la Fondation Louis Vuitton and we have a second dialogue, still with a stranger. I'm going to read everything first. Bonjour, je voudrais 2 tickets s'il vous plaît. Bonjour, ce sera 2 tarifs adultes, un tarif adulte et un tarif enfant. Cela vous fera 25,50 € s'il vous plaît. Je vais payer par carte. Et voilà votre reçu et vos 2 tickets. Merci beaucoup. Pourrais-je avoir un plan du musée, s'il vous plaît? Voici un plan du musée. Bonne visite. Excusez-moi. Après ma visite, je veux faire les magasins. Vous me conseillez quoi comme quartier? Je vous recommande le Marais et le quartier Opéra. Merci beaucoup. Bonne journée. Now we are going to practice together. You'll be the one starting. Still the red section for you and the blue section for me. Bonjour, ce sera 2 adultes? Cela fera 25,50 € s'il vous plaît. Et voilà votre reçu et vos 2 tickets. Voici le plan du musée. Bonne visite. Je vous recommande le Marais et le quartier Opéra. Well done. How do you feel? Don't hesitate to redo those conversations, okay? It's very important. Practice makes it good. Point culturel. Here's a little fun fact about Le Louvre. Did you know that Le Louvre is the biggest museum in the world? In fact, it's so big that if you were to spend 30 seconds on each piece of art, it would take 100 days to go through them all. And this is without sleep, breaks, or mealtime. Well done, you have finished the first unit. I really hope you enjoyed this first level. Feel free to rewatch these videos as often as you possibly need, do the exercises and have a look at the PDF and all the audio files. And I hope to see you in the next unit. Ciao, ciao!